Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, and welcome to Knowledge Talks, a weekly entertainment and knowledge sharing program aired live specifically to share with you topics that contribute knowledge to the society. Every week, Knowledge Talks host and invite guests that are experts, professionals, and leaders from the field that bring wealth of knowledge to you. Knowledge Talks also highlights and promotes talents in the country that contributes knowledge and success to the nation. This program, ladies and gentlemen, is a weekly session that I will have with you every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. I'm your host, Tariq Barwani, along with our studio engineer, DJ Saleh, for an hour bringing you free knowledge at your doorsteps on Oman Radio FM 90.4. Values can have many different meanings, but the importance of being aware cannot be neglected. What is values? How important is it? What are the practices and how does it change over time? Is our discussion for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to invite Helen Sayers, the Managing Director and Lead Trainer at Oasis Life Skills Training Services, as our guest this week in Knowledge Talks, as Helen elaborates living values from personal education and professional experience. Helen comes from the island of Jersey in the UK and has lived in Oman for over 6 years. As a manager and trainer at Oasis Life Skills Training Services, Helen facilitates workshops in professional and personal development for teachers, higher education students, and organizations. She also works as a freelance training consultant at PDO. Helen developed an interest in values education and became a trainer with the Association for Living Values Education International, ALIVE, and a member of its International Advisory Board. She has facilitated workshops for teachers in Europe, Africa, India, and the Middle East, and with street children in West and Central Africa. Today, I'm very pleased to invite Helen with us here to share with us living values. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, Helen Sayers.
Wa alaikum salam.
You have a great personality.
Well, thank you very much.
You are very beautiful as well.
Thank you. That's very charming of you.
I always enjoy reading your posts. I always enjoy listening and hearing about you. And today I'm very happy you are with us here in Oman Radio FM 90.4.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So I won't be the only one who will be taking away the knowledge for myself, but we want to have all the thousands of listeners today learning from you as well, Helen.
Thank you. And a very good evening to everyone out there.
Very good evening. You have written a training manual for teachers and facilitators, Ubuntu, the Spirit of Humanity, dedicated to the late Nelson Mandela. And I have a copy here today, so I am very lucky. Thank you very, very much.
It's a pleasure.
Tell us about it.
Well, in fact, the book was partly inspired by being in Oman.
Okay.
In fact, I can really say that I never believed that I could ever write a book of any kind.
Okay.
But it was the quietness, the stillness of Oman, the peaceful atmosphere that gave me that space to put something together.
Okay.
Actually, I was asked to write a chapter for a book on values education about what was then my favorite topic, which was Ubuntu. Now, Ubuntu simply is a word. It comes from Southern Africa, where I lived for many years.
Okay.
But in fact, it's about universal values, and particularly the values needed for living together in harmony.
Okay.
So I was asked to write a short chapter for a friend for her book. But once I got going, once I got started, I got really involved and interested, and more ideas came. So at one point I asked this friend, how long, by the way, should this chapter be?
Okay.
She said, 6 pages maximum. And I said, oh dear, I've already written 7 pages and I'm still on the introduction.
Wow.
So she said, Helen, go ahead, you have to make a separate book on this topic.
Okay.
And so that's how it started. And as I said, living in Oman, I was very inspired by the values that I felt here, that people live, and of course the great leader, His Majesty himself. And then eventually the book was published here and then translated into French and then Arabic. And
amazing.
Just a year ago.
That's nice. Now, I have a copy, and where can others also obtain a similar copy?
Well, it's best if they get in touch with me personally.
Okay.
Because it's not really very much out there yet.
Okay.
But I do have spare copies that I could give to people if they're interested.
And I'm definitely sure people would love to have it. Now, how can people get hold of you? Facebook, you have an account. I know you've got an account on Facebook. Is that the only social media platform you have that you are actively engaging in?
That's the main one. I mean, I've put my name down for Twitter, but I find with WhatsApp and Facebook, that's just quite enough. It takes up too much of my time already.
Okay.
So Facebook would be the best way.
Facebook would be the best way. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. To get a copy of Ubuntu, I have one. I'm lucky. You may be able to contact Helen Sayers on her Facebook page. Values is, or living values is the topic of our discussion today. Mm-hmm. Values may have different meanings. What is your definitions of values?
That's a very interesting question, because certainly there is no one textbook definition of the word value. Mm-hmm. And what's been very interesting for me is conducting workshops in different parts of the world and asking people, what is your definition of a value? And it's just almost unlimited, the sort of definitions that people come up with. And that's because I suppose in front of me is a table. I can see it, I can feel it, it's got a certain colour and a certain weight, it's very tangible. But values are not tangible, they're invisible, mm-hmm. but they're very real. And somehow we need to develop a vocabulary to be able to express and describe values and how they affect our lives. So I suppose it would be something like a virtue that guides my thoughts and actions, a positive aspect of my personality that keeps me on the right direction in my life.
Okay. Now, you have conducted many sessions around the world for the definition values, and I understand you've when asking that question, you've got unlimited answers for it, or definitions. Were those unlimited answers in a way heading to the same answer at the you know, as a conclusion of the definition, but everyone given a different way of expressing it?
I think what you say, a different way of expressing it, is true, but no, I wouldn't say it ever limited down to one answer, because it depends on each individual's experience. Okay. And all of our experiences of life are so different according to our upbringing, according to our religion, according to the things that we're interested in. Yeah. And so even just the concept of what is a value, all of these aspects come into it.
Okay, so what would be a generic response? So what is values? What would you say?
Possibly a guiding principle.
I like that. A guiding principle. I like that.
Yes, is that okay?
That's very okay.
Great.
I like that, because it's very simple.
Yes.
And it's self-explanatory as well.
Yes.
It's a guiding principle. Now, why does it matter for us to be aware of our values?
Again, a very deep question. I think that values are really at the heart of everything that we do. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to actually just pick up a quotation on Tariq's Facebook page yesterday, where you said, "To be rich is not what you have in your bank account, but what you have in your heart." And I think you got lots of likes for that one. And so I think this is what it's about. It's what we have in our hearts, and it determines what we do, because our actions are guided by our hearts. And I think if we put values aside in whatever we do, we lose out.
Okay.
Other people lose out as well.
Okay. And would you say, is it necessary, or is it just an optional extra?
I would say it's the fundamental aspect of our lives.
Okay, that we have, everyone need to understand what is values, and they also need to ensure that they are aware of what value is.
Yes, and that they sustain them in their families, in their working environment, in society, in their nation, and so on, as a foundation block.
But that's very interesting. talking about I'm going to look into the family and later on different aspects of life, how values can impact the people around it or part of a family or so. Let me give an example in an organizations. Many organizations use the word values. How would you define that? Is it in the same context of the principle guiding?
Yes. I mean, just to list a few values that I would say are universal: honesty, patience, tolerance, commitment, integrity. And what we find in most companies, most organizations, is that they will have a mission statement.
True.
And they will have a value statement as well. And quite often one sees the word integrity in that. But to actually live that, to actually put that into practice is the greatest challenge that we have, because there are many influences that can easily take us away from that.
I'm particularly also interested is in an organization. Give an example of an international organization. You have different employees from different background, different religion, and so on. That would be a little bit challenging, right? So,
yes. And what impresses me very much about working with PDO is the emphasis that the company puts on inclusion and diversity, recognizing that people from different backgrounds have a wonderful input into that company, and the inclusiveness to make sure that is valued and that everyone can express themselves in their different ways and be respected for that and valued for that.
Okay. I would like to know, how can an organization, or what do organizations do to ensure that their values are followed?
Well, I think it's absolutely essential that everyone gets around the table and has a chance to discuss those values and, if possible, even decide which values they want to follow.
Okay, but how, talking about an organization that has thousands of employees, how can they go about ensuring that they all know what values are, and ensuring one way is to have the values written in a number of places in the organization, but this is just what I'm thinking in my head. But let's say you've got 1,000 employees and then you've got values, you want to ensure everyone follows them. How can that work?
Well, I go back again to my experience at PDO. Every now and again we have a survey, an online survey, where we are all invited to give our opinion, to give our, advice, and to help constantly moulding the way the company is directed. And so this is something I find really wonderful about this company.
Does this also change the values?
I'm sure it does. It does, and our MD, constantly invites staff to come and have meetings with him. There are different committees, and everyone's voice is taken into effect.
Okay, that's very, very interesting. We're going to take a quick break right now for the Adhan al-Maghrib, and then revert back to discussing about values and the importance. Okay, so our topic today is on living values. Before the music break, before the Adhan break, we have we introduced about the definition and the importance of living with understanding the definition of values. Does values change in time, Helen?
Do you mean our personal values or external values? Yes.
Yes.
I think they do. I believe that we are all born with a set of values. We're all born with love, peace, happiness. Just look at a little baby. You don't have to teach a baby to be peaceful, to be happy, to be loving. It's naturally there. But from that point onwards, a lot then depends on the environment and the atmosphere around that person that can nurture or take away or destroy some of those values. But those values are actually innate. They're part of the soul. I quite often like the image of a diamond, which has many, many facets and reflects different colours according to the light. So each of those colours could be a value. But if you put that diamond in a dark cupboard, it's not going to shine. And if you cover it with dust, then those colours are not going to be released. But if that beautiful diamond is properly looked after, then the values will shine. And so I do feel that if a child or an adult has a nurturing environment where he or she feels safe, valued, loved, respected and understood, then those values will really become very, very strong. They will develop more and more. But if that same person, if things crumble around them, if their family, breaks down and there's a lot of anger and sadness around that person, or if there's a breakdown in society, as we see so often in the world today, then, for that person to keep nurturing those beautiful values is not so easy, and quite often negativity then sets in.
Yeah, so it does change over time.
Yes.
Is that a positive or a negative?
Can be positive or negative in those two examples that I gave you.
Okay. Is there such thing as a universal values? I heard you using the word universal values. What
yes. I think there are many universal values, and having travelled quite a lot, I've come to recognise that every place in the world, every nationality, every religious background, they all adhere to values such as love, peace, honesty, respect. That's a very important one, of course. Integrity. It doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter what the background of the person is. These are absolute fundamentals, and I think that's why I'm so passionate about talking about values and training in values, because this is something that unites the world. Many other things can unfortunately cause divisions, but values are so fundamental to all of us that this is something that unites.
Okay, so we do have that. Now, commonly we speak about values in terms of people or communities. What about the values in relation to organization, which you've already shared?
Yes, I mean, I talked about, a major organization in this country, but schools, for example, very important organizations for developing and fostering those values. And I heard quite recently, I can't even remember where it was, but a failing school. Terrible problems, discipline problems with children failing their exams, teenagers really going astray. And suddenly they had a change of principal. And the new principal just came in there and encouraged these youngsters and told them, you've got a future. You just have to work hard. I'm right behind you and I'm going to help you all the way. That school turned around within a matter of months.
Was it in Oman?
And I can't remember where it was. It wasn't in Oman. It was in another country. I wish I could remember. But this is just an example. There is a school that I visit every year in Kuwait. I run a staff development training program, a 2-day training program every year. And this school, it's called Kuwait American School. And the founder was a great friend of mine, Wajia Al-Habib.
Okay.
And she had a vision that her school would be based on values right from the beginning. And so she started her school with kindergarten, and then each year another layer came. And now, for the last 3 years, students have been graduating from the school and going on to college and university. And the headmaster, he stands at the gate every morning and welcomes every single student and every teacher with a smile into that school. And if someone's not smiling, he says, "Are you okay? Do you want to come and have a chat with me at break time?"
Yeah, that's good. That's nice.
And the whole school has got a wonderful atmosphere. And it's based on this Living Values program, which I might talk to you a little bit more about later. And some people might think, oh gosh, what about the real work of the school, the academic development? But actually, this school has just recently been accredited by an international organisation at a very high level based on its academic performance. But apparently the accreditors came and they said, there's something different about this school. This school really works. It's got a wonderful atmosphere. And that's because values are integrated in every part of the curriculum.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's very good.
It's not just in one lesson or in one year group or one class. All the teachers are expected to be role models of values and to bring values in a very dynamic way, not reading values, not getting them to copy and write about them, but to live them and practice them and enjoy them and do creative activities with values.
What are the values of that specific school?
They've chosen 12 key values.
Okay.
And each month they focus on a value.
Oh.
So let me see if I can get the 12. I'll try. Certainly peace, love, happiness, humility, respect, freedom, unity, cooperation, responsibility, simplicity, and now I'm struggling. Tolerance. Tolerance, there we are. There's 11 out of 12.
Yeah. So they have these 12 values defined within the school, and they follow each one of them every month?
Yes, and the whole school works on that value. So let's say it's the value of respect, right from kindergarten right up to the 16, 17-year-olds.
Okay.
The teachers are all, projects are based around that value, posters are put up on the walls, the morning assembly and is always based on that value, songs, creative activities, etc., so that it really becomes integrated.
That's really interesting.
Yes.
That's very, very interesting. I wondered, how does it work? Let me go back one step back again to organizations or a group per se. They define certain values that they all need to follow in order to prosper or to attain certain goals. But one of the individuals has one of the values that differs to the generic value. What happens then?
Again, I think this is where getting together, meeting, discussing and, coming to some sort of consensus and building that sort of trust and mutual respect among the staff. Then such things can be, perhaps the school would even change to include that, But I think, again, it's about cooperation, it's about unity, it's about...
And understanding with each other.
Yes, exactly.
Talking about the school that you said you had a headmaster who going to school which was failing, and then, he came and turned around. I would recommend, there's a very nice movie. In fact, my father has asked me to watch. I have a copy as well. It's called Lean on Me.
Yes.
It's a very, very old movie in the 80s. And that movie just, wowed me off. It's about a headmaster who goes in a school as well. It's happened somewhere in America and changes everything.
Yes.
To follow some certain, I'm not sure it was values, but they think it's certain style in order to make the school turn around, and many of the students were passing. Talking about the Living Values program, this is a program that you are training. Could you please tell us about it?
Yes. I've been involved in this program now for about 16 years. And it first started, it was hosted by UNICEF in New York, Department for Early Childhood. And 20 educators were invited from all over the world, from different backgrounds, to come and talk together about values and to put together a sort of a draft syllabus for an international program on values education. And so that was the starting point. And then more and more people got on board and eventually developed a program with all sorts of activities, and then we would have regular meetings, across the globe. Now it's more virtual, of course. The wonder of the internet means that we can keep in touch very regularly, which wasn't so available at the time. And it's just a group of very dedicated individuals, and mostly volunteers, who believe that this is the foundation of education. And work in many different places in the world.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice. And how often is the meeting happening now?
We have a yearly international meeting at different places in the world, and we're hoping soon to have a regional meeting for the Middle East.
Oh, that's nice.
That's on the cards. We hope it'll happen soon. And I was actually just last week, 2 weeks ago, I was invited to Sharjah by the Sharjah Education Council to run a 2-day workshop for teachers.
On living values.
On living values.
Okay.
But the main coordinator was a wonderful person called Miriam Fozan, who's actually the living values coordinator for the UAE.
Okay.
And it's because she has vision, and I think this is what's needed for values education, is to have this vision of where you're going, a much broader vision, a holistic vision of the total development of the child.
Okay.
And she's held this vision, and so eventually she persuaded the Sharjah government to go ahead, and we had a wonderful training for about 50 teachers.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice. Now, for each country, do they have a coordinator?
Yes.
Okay.
They have a focal point in, must be about 60 countries now in the world.
Okay.
And in some countries, an organisation becomes an associate of ALIVE, the international group. Mm-hmm. And it somehow it all works through goodwill.
Okay.
It really does. It doesn't work through, huge funding. We're mostly volunteers who just do whatever we can, wherever we are. And occasionally, if funding is available, that's fantastic. We can do something more substantial. But otherwise, it's little things happening in little ways which grow and grow. Yeah. So here in Oman, we've had a number of workshops at different schools. And recently, I introduced living values to Rui School and Wadi Kabir School for girls. Okay. And ran a foundation training course for teachers in Nizwa University a few years ago. And there are some very dedicated individuals here, some very dedicated teachers in Oman who just love to implement this program.
Oh, that's very nice. And who is the coordinator in Oman?
I am at the moment.
Okay, mashallah, mashallah.
But I'm hoping to Omanize that at some point in time.
Can I join?
Yes, you can.
Now, tell me about the syllabus of the program.
Well, it's more to do with an approach rather than a syllabus.
Okay.
Because the understanding is that every teacher is a great resource of ideas, creativity, and experience. And sometimes I think we overlook this as teachers, and we tie ourselves down to syllabus and books and resources. Yeah. But actually, once a teacher is inspired to be creative, find a way to bring honesty into a lesson, think of an activity that will illustrate tolerance, or get the children to come up with their ideas, so that it becomes implemented in a very organic way. So there are a set of textbooks, which I wouldn't actually call textbooks, they're activity books, which again have been translated into Arabic. Okay. But we really tend to encourage teachers to develop their own activities and just to use this as an approach. And the approach is about the teachers themselves becoming role models and bringing out the very best from their students.
And how long does this course particularly take?
Again, there's no actual sort of time limit. Okay. In my travels, for example, in Africa, one would go along and just have a 2-day workshop for teachers, and then the teachers would go off and implement this in whatever way they could, with whatever restrictions they had, with whatever opportunities they had. And we would just say, look, be dynamic, be creative, just bring it into your lessons, bring it into your school, include everyone in the school, even the cleaners, the administration staff and so on. So the whole school is built around this concept.
Okay, that's really nice. Yeah. That's really nice. Ladies and gentlemen, the number to call in is 24602058. I repeat, that's 24602058. If you have any question pertaining to our subject today, we want to take a quick break. Meanwhile, okay, Helen, we've spoken about values in business, values in education. I would like to look at values in your personal experience. Can you please relate a moment that changed a perspective of yourself?
Well, one moment that stands very clearly in my mind was the day I jumped out of an aeroplane.
Okay.
With a parachute.
Wow.
And I think I must have been about 19. I was still at college.
Okay.
And I had a great friend, a childhood friend, who had become a parachute instructor.
Okay.
And in chatting to him, he told me what he was doing, and I said, well, that's something I've always wanted to do. Of course, I didn't mean it. I just said it, as one does.
Yeah.
He said, well, that's great. Come on our training next week. And my stomach just dropped. I thought, how on earth am I going to get out of this one now?
Yeah.
So I took the training, and then before I knew it, there I was up in this tiny little plane, 2,000 feet or 2,000 meters, I think, and just watching everything getting smaller and smaller.
Wow.
And then at one point I had to jump.
Didn't you think twice? I mean, oh my God,
Well,
am I really doing this?
Well, yes. In fact, at one point I thought, no, I'm not going to jump. I'll just sit here. I'm sure someone put their foot behind me and kicked me out of the plane.
Wow.
Because I really don't think I would have had the courage to jump.
And you jumped with the instructor?
No, this was called static line jumping. So what happens is you have your parachute in your pack on your back.
Okay.
But there's a thread which actually joins that pack to the wing.
Okay.
And so as you jump, that thread pulls your parachute out.
Oh,
so you're
okay.
actually in free fall for a few seconds.
Okay.
And then suddenly your parachute has opened.
So
for
you don't need to trigger something, a button or so. I don't know about that.
Thankfully not, no.
So automatically...
Yes, because of course they know that people like me would probably never think to press a button, you know.
I probably myself, I don't know, probably, or
Yes.
other person might faint as well. I mean,
Anything could
you know?
happen, yes. But it was the most exhilarating, exciting moment to just be up there totally alone.
Okay.
And and so quiet, so silent. It was really a moment of meditation, in fact, and just wonder. But then the ground started coming up to me very quickly.
Okay.
And I had to then try to remember, how do I land and what position do I put myself in, etc., etc. And I got it all wrong, so I ended up with quite a few bruises.
Ooh, ouch.
But
okay.
the feeling of achievement,
Yeah.
I mean, I think two things that really radically changed me from that experience was, one was that amazing feeling of being up there on my own.
Yeah.
As I said, that feeling of just oneness and meditation, really. And then the second feeling was, having recovered from a few bruises, just the feeling of, wow, I can do it. You know, it's a sense of achievement, of having sort of pushed the boundaries. And I think that's, you know, sort of helped me in many ways to take on challenges which otherwise would seem almost impossible.
MashaAllah. The question is, would you do it again now?
Well,
Dubai, they've got this Key Dubai thing.
you see, what happens is you jump and you pick yourself up together, and then they come along and they say, right, get into the plane again and go up again.
So you did it twice?
You have to, because
Whoa.
apparently if you don't do it immediately that second time, you will never ever get the courage again to jump. So it's
that's really
something
nice.
psychological. And sure enough, the second time was vastly more terrifying
Ouch.
for some reason.
Yeah.
But, you know, having done that, they say that you could continue later on.
You could do it
without
again.
being. But I don't think I will.
Okay.
I don't feel any pull to do it again.
Yeah.
But yes, I was so glad to do it. You know, it gave me a feeling of stretching possibilities in myself, and you know, nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
Mumkin.
MashaAllah, everything is mumkin.
Yeah.
You have traveled and worked in a variety of countries. How has this shaped your views and values, Helen?
Yes, well, the first country that I went to actually live and work was Kenya.
Okay.
I was only in my early 20s.
Okay.
And I took on a teaching job as a biology teacher in an international school. And so there I was, going to Kenya for a 3-year contract and not knowing anyone there.
Wow.
And I think this was another, you know, change in my life.
And you were there for 3 years?
Yes.
Do you speak the language?
Ninasema Kiswahili kidogo sana.
Oh, unazungumza Kiswahili. That's really good.
Ninasahau.
Unasahau.
I've forgotten most of it, but I just remember a few key words. But it was just quite an amazing feeling of stepping off that plane.
Okay.
And I felt this warmth of the country, not only the physical warmth, but there was just something about the sense of belonging that I experienced when I arrived there. And immediately I felt that all my sort of perceptions of life were challenged, because I was in a different culture. everything was different around me. And I saw different religions being practiced. Now, I'd been brought up, in quite a secluded environment in England, as a Christian by background, and suddenly I noticed that there were many other ways of looking at life, many other ways of doing things, and it gave me a great sense of respect to see that these are all valid. And it made me again stretch my understanding of life, and made me just want to learn more and more and visit more and more cultures to understand people.
Mashallah.
And understand, again, comes back to universal values. And this is where I started to see that we do all share those.
Yeah, universal values. I feel the sense of belonging that you felt is because of your personality, Helen. You are very pleasant. When people are around, you can easily get, you can easily, click with people, mashallah. I heard a lot from a number of people who knows you personally, and they speak very, very big, mashallah.
Well, that's very kind of
I
you.
personally am very happy I've met you today as well.
Well, that's very kind of you. But I think there are certain places that create that sense of belonging, and Oman is one of them.
Mashallah, mashallah.
And I haven't found it in all countries, to be honest.
Alhamdulillah.
So thank you for your compliment, but I think it really is more to do with the people that I've met.
Okay.
And I'll never forget the first day I arrived in Oman.
Okay.
I knew nothing about Oman. I didn't even know where it was. I'm ashamed to admit. But the first day I arrived and I came to the airport, the first thing that struck me was how polite the people were at the airport desks.
Yeah, thank you.
Usually at airports you don't often get that. They were smiling. They were so helpful. And then I came into the big lounge and suddenly I saw people from all different nationalities.
Oh, mashallah.
Every colour under the sun, every type of outfit under the sun. And that's where I heard Swahili being spoken. And of course the Indian population was there. And suddenly I thought, gosh, I've come to a very special place.
Alhamdulillah.
And
we have a special person as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the first things I did was to get to know about the people and of course this very special leader.
Okay.
who-
And what brought you to Oman, and what is, of course, what is keeping you here?
Well, I was invited to come by the Raj Yoga Centre for Self-Development. They were putting together a proposal for an international peace forum in Oman. And the idea was to bring people from all different walks of life. It wasn't going to be politically or religiously. The theme was going to be very diverse, bringing educators, bringing sports people, bringing people from the United Nations together to dialogue on, what is behind peaceful coexistence and peaceful development, using Oman as an example of a country that's very much at peace within its borders and at peace outside of the borders, and of course with exemplary leadership. And so I started to help to develop a proposal and started to meet people, and people from other organisations joined in, and we developed the proposal to a certain extent. And then suddenly someone from Iceland took a liking to this proposal, and so the forum went to Iceland and I was left in Oman. But meanwhile I had developed a deep love for the country and the people, and I thought, well, here I am. Let me just see if I can stay here and live here and work here and just see how it goes. And luckily for me, alhamdulillah, everything worked out. And so here I am now.
Alhamdulillah. And we are happy. We don't want you to leave. We want you to stay here in Oman.
Shukran jazilan. I would love to.
Before end of our program, is there anything you wish to share to our audience today, Helen?
Yes, well, I think really to value oneself is very important. Each one of us has a beautiful, beautiful selection of values, skills and talents, and sometimes we don't have the confidence to really go out there and live them, and sometimes we find we compromise them. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to live one's values. This is a lifelong learning experience, and I feel I've only just started to scratch the surface, and I feel I'm being constantly challenged, and I observe myself and see where I've let myself down from time to time, and then try and pick up again. And I think self-reflection is very important. Call it prayer, call it meditation, call it... I go for a silent walk on the beach once a week minimum. This is something which is absolutely essential to me.
And for how long?
Just to be on my own. It can be half an hour minimum. Just to walk, to be with nature, to connect with myself, to connect with God, to connect with whatever I'm doing in life, and just to reflect. And that really, I find, is for me, is absolutely essential. Without that, life would be empty for me, and I wouldn't be able to apply myself properly at work, and so on. And so I feel that, to find that space in one's daily life, which is very big. Most of us are just so busy. We say, I don't have time.
And cluttered with all the social media.
Exactly.
Newspapers, television,
all
radio.
the gadgets, etc.
Yeah.
It's not easy to put them... When I go for my walk on the beach, my phone does not come with me.
Good.
My phone stays behind.
Yeah.
So I feel that, time for the self, time for sharing with like-minded people and exploring some of these concepts is very, very important.
Very nice. Thank you very, very much for joining us today on Radio FM 90.4 to share about living values and its importance, Helen.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to take this opportunity to wish you the very best and success in all you do.
Thank you.
I would like to join you in one of the Living Values sessions in the upcoming ones.
You're
I would
most
love to
welcome.
be one of your students and come and learn from you, Helen.
You're most welcome. We can all learn from each other.
Inshallah.
And we'll definitely keep in touch.
Inshallah. Thank you.
Shukran.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our program for this week. I hope you all had an intriguing time with us. I am your host Tariq Barwani, along with our studio engineer DJ Saleh, wishing you all a happy and a pleasant week. Ma'a salama.